It is another great day. Sun shining today. So grateful for those of you that can join us this morning. My name is Jamie Johnson. I'm the owner and founder of Seeds of Love LLC, a mental health coaching, counseling, and education space. And today we are having a spirit well conversation. I like to call it spirit well because we want to consider our spirit, but our overall wellness. And so today I am pleased to bring on a dear therapist, colleague who is wonderful at what she does, Miss Yvonne Brooks. And so today we will be talking about our title today is a little, it's a little different. It's You Good? You good? We're having a mental health conversation about our youth today. And my hope is that this will be helpful not only for young people, but also for those who are serving young people, for parents, for anyone that is currently working alongside young people because their mental health and their wellness is important. And so I just want to start off this morning and give you a few minutes, Yvonne, to just tell the people about yourself a little bit, what you currently do, any of those things that you feel like are important and you would like folks to know about you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm excited to be a part of this particular platform. What I do in my career is basically I am a supervisee in social work. And what that means is that I am preparing for licensure as a licensed clinical social worker. In my current capacity right now, I am serving as a therapist and I work at the Inner Circle Incorporated. This is a mental health agency that services everybody, you name it. We have lots of different services, but I serve in the outpatient arena. And so I service a plethora of demographics, but as I graduated 2 years ago, I found that I didn't know exactly how I wanted to serve. I just knew I wanted to serve. And so, what that did for me being a supervisee, so I trained and I knew I said, okay, therapy is kind of my niche, but I just want to make sure that I know, like, is there a specific specialty I want to serve? And I really wasn't sure about that. But like I said, as I've been working 2 years in the outpatient field, doing clinical work, I have found that young people are where my heart leads me time and time again. I can't tell you how many young people have come across my path, sat in my chair, and I have just made a connection with them that was therapeutic, but also just very human. And so I've taken on more of that clientele in the last year or so. I've just found that that is my passion, that is my calling, as it always
Mm-hmm.
has been, but I've just kind of discovered that in the more professional capacity over the last year or so. And so I'm excited to serve our young people, and I look forward to at least on this platform, being able to connect to young people, being able to connect to parents, because sometimes people are raising these young people and it's like they're speaking a different language, right? So like, how do I communicate? How do I connect? And so I'm hoping that my practice and my service will speak to that.
Yes, absolutely. And I celebrate, and we joke because I celebrate those who, especially the younger children. And I know you have an age range, and I'll let you share that later too. But um, those who serve children and are able to provide care for children in the therapeutic manner, right? That actually provide therapy for young people. I celebrate because it can be challenging, right? Adults oftentimes come to therapy with something in mind, right? With an idea of what they want to work on, or even knowledge of why this could be beneficial, right? Most times, we have our adults who might be a little bit hesitant, take them a little bit longer. But for the most part, adults, the buy in, I guess, so to speak, is there. And young people, many times, are coming, historically anyway, are coming because they've been told they have to come or someone is suggesting it. But I know that I'm seeing a shift, and I'm sure you are as well, but seeing this shift in young people who are coming because they've asked to come, right? Because they desire to be in therapy. Are you seeing some of the same things in this shift in what young people are looking for or asking for when it comes to therapy?
Absolutely, absolutely. That is something that it almost kind of amazed me the first time I had a young person come in my office, and their parent basically said, you know, this is their choice. This is what they've requested. And so when I saw that, I just was kind of like, wow, I'm happy in a way that the word is getting out to our young people that mental health is
Mhm.
important, because I don't know that we would have encountered young people who would raise their hand and say, yes, I'd like to go and I'd like to receive services. And so there's almost like a little bit of a shift happening where young people, I don't know how, maybe social media is kind of that conduit where the word is really getting out to our young people to take their mental health seriously and prioritize self in a way that I don't think that we were taught before.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm seeing definitely some young people come in the office and they're asking for, they're advocating for themselves. They're asking the questions. They might not have the
Mhm.
language per se, but they're asking the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. And no right or wrong answer, but just kind of your observation. Do you notice any patterns or like what's driving this current like push or advocacy for themselves? What do you are you noticing anything?
From where I
Mhm.
stand, I am seeing or observing that there's a
Mm.
disconnect. There's a disconnect with the people who are in their lives, whether it's the parents, whether it's the teachers, whether it's, you know, just the individuals who are governing this young person's life. So there's a disconnect, you know. Yes, this person is in authority, but is this person in
Mm.
connection? And I think that that is where, you know, as I kind of observe over the spectrum, I'm just kind of like, wow, so they are connected to social media, or they are connected to their friends, or they are connected to, I mean, you know, you name it, whatever it is. But I'm seeing that the people who are in their lives who can make a big
Mhm.
difference in their lives, the ones who are helping them navigate society, the ones who are helping them navigate everyday life stuff, there's a
Yeah.
disconnect. And for whatever reason, I mean, you know, right, no fault of the
Mhm.
caregiver, because the caregiver is trying to make it on their, you know, trying to figure out how they can make it, how they can make things kind of connect, how to make ends meet, right? So no fault, but still the trend is still the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. So let's what are some of the
What are some of the
I'll start with concerns that you might find that young people are having. Well, I'll back up because I'll start asking all the questions. What's on your heart to share about youth and their mental health? Let's just start there.
Okay. So kind of going back to that, the
Yeah.
response I just provided, right? So
Hmm.
connection. That was one of the things as we were discussing, you know, in preparation for today. Connection was really on my heart, and it kind of kept I would kind of go one way and say, well, let me try to, you know, read about this, and I want to maybe synthesize this and talk about it. And I kept going back. I don't know, my heart just kept going back to that, like that word of connection. It kept ringing in my
Mm-hmm.
spirit, connection,
Hmm.
connection. And the reason why I think is because some people find it hard to connect because maybe you weren't taught, or maybe that wasn't demonstrated to you in your formative years and in your younger life. So how do I connect in a world, in a society that's so disconnected, right? Everything is taking your attention away from the things that are truly important.
Mm.
Everything is competing for your
Yeah.
attention. It's like, you know, the society is telling us that we need to do more, but the days are not getting
Right.
longer, right?
Right.
So we're having to still kind of um, compact all of these activities, all of these tasks into the 24 hours out of the day. And it's really not 24 hours, but how do you connect? And so something that I thought about was, and I also share this in my
Mhm.
sessions, right? So quantity time over quality
Mm.
time. What is that? Okay, so I know we're at home on a weekend and everybody's in the house, but are we spending quality time is the
Yeah.
question. Sometimes that's not always the case because everybody's doing their own thing kind of in their own little zones and in their own corners, but where does that quality time really take place? Something I know we've some people have gotten away from, not everybody, because there are still some families who still practice this, but family dinner,
Mm.
for
Mhm.
example, or family game night, for example. These are all ways. Nobody labels it, this is our connection time. Nobody puts it in their phone, hey, this is our time to connect. Nobody does that, but it still has that meat. It still has that same quality. It still has that same investment. So that is how, those are ways, practical ways that you can still invest. Yeah, we're having fun, we're having a great time, but you're connecting, you're truly connecting, you're being present, you're kind of taking, and I know people say that cliche, taking the phones away,
Mhm.
taking the computers away, maybe turn the TV off for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Connect and truly like see like what makes your kid laugh, or what makes your parent laugh,
Yeah.
and so because it's kind of like two-way dynamic happening during that quality time. If I could share an example of what I used
Mhm.
to do, especially during pandemic, that was extremely important, very crucial to my building quality time with my kids. I take each one of them individually and kind of just do something different with each one of them. So that way, each one of them had a unique experience with
Mhm.
mom. But I just kind of found my way to spend time with them. One of my daughters, she just wanted, she was the Target run and done,
Mhm.
back
Mhm.
then. And so I'd take her and we'd go to Target. There's like a lap that you can do around Target. And we
Yeah.
would do this lap probably about 4 or 5 times and slow. And it was almost like a walk in the park. We were in
Mhm.
Target, and it was just really important. I don't care where we
Mhm.
were. It didn't matter where we were. All that mattered in that moment was that her and I were able to laugh like she could talk about her teachers or what happened online on the Zoom class, whatever, and I would just let her talk.
Mm.
And then sometimes if I blink twice and cross my fingers and cross my toes, when we got home in the driveway, she'd still be
Mm.
talking. And so that conversation from Target would still linger and I would let it linger. I wouldn't rush her because what's more important than this moment
Yeah.
right here?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so that was one of the ways that I did that. Another one of my other kids, she likes to hold
Mhm.
hands. And so, if we're going somewhere, I recognize she'll kind of hold her hand out. If I am not careful, I could really shut that behavior
Mm.
down, that pattern of really her asking for my
Mhm.
connection. I could really I could really shut that down in a way that I don't
Yeah.
want to. I don't wanna
Yeah.
stifle that. And so when I feel that she needs my hand, I'm quick. Like, now she's 20, but I will still, and now it's almost like I'm excited to hold her hand, like,
Mhm.
"Yay, she's letting me hold her hand," and we'll walk and we'll hold hands. And I feel like that is a way, even if we were not saying anything at
Mhm.
all, that's a way to
Yeah.
connect.
Yeah.
And so you gotta just kinda find your thing. So I wanted to talk about quality
Mhm.
time versus
Mhm.
quantity time. Now, mind you, it might seem like those Target runs were quantity because they were long and they were
Mhm.
intentional, but that was quality. Just as much quality as I would equate to my daughter just holding hands with me, just from the car to the front of the store or wherever we're going. That, even though it's only but a few
Mhm.
minutes, think about the impact that that's making on
Mm.
her.
Mhm.
That when she reaches out her hand to me, I'm grabbing it and I'm there. That's a message that I wanna send to her, and so there's a connection that's being
Mhm.
made, and so I wanted to just share that.
Absolutely. I think this point is very important, but I think sometimes it gets minimized, or it is we kind of, because of the society we live in right now, right? We're so busy that it's, I'm doing the best I can. And I don't doubt that in many cases, right? I don't doubt that people are doing the best they can. But what I do hear you saying is like, there's this need to really go back to basics, right? Go back to the beginning.
Yes, absolutely.
Go back to when we didn't have the electronics, or the electronics couldn't go with us, right? The TV was on. The TV could not be moved. It was not an iPad. It was not on the phone, right? We didn't have, our radio was in our room. I'm not saying we're going back in that way, but the ability to pull ourselves and separate ourselves away from those things, I think, is incredibly important. And so I think it is almost, it's almost going back to what the simplicity that we used to live in gave
Right.
the space for the quantity and the quality of time. And
Right.
unfortunately, with convenience has come a lot of lost time. A lot of, as much as they were trying to make things convenient, it has consumed us in ways that maybe we didn't think would happen. And so
Absolutely.
I think that that's an excellent point. There's and I think even Miss Donna said that, don't you think, get back to fundamental basic principles, in life in a major way. Rest. Yes. So she is saying absolutely what I'm saying before I even read it, getting back to the fundamentals, right? Fundamental principles in a
Yes.
major way. And I agree. I think it is, you keep going. Sorry. Cause like I said, I can rumble.
No, this is amazing. And I love to hear when people say, like, get back to what it used to be, those basic, I mean, because in essence, it
Mm-hmm.
really is. It's a basic thing. It's not, no, nobody is asking you to do the new
Yeah.
math. No, that's not it. It's the same ways that we used to sit down and we used to eat
Mm-hmm.
together, and it wasn't like anybody was like rushing trying to bolt out. Like sometimes you'd be done eating and the plates will still
Right.
be sitting there and you're just kind of like, so what else, the
Yeah.
reset, right? It was the reset. It's almost like that was the reset of the day, or that was the reset of of that time frame. That's what we need to get
Yeah.
back to, and that is how you truly connect to people. It's not through connecting like in the ways of like
Mm-hmm.
technology. Connecting in the human form, real people talking about, and it can we get deeper than just the "How was your day?"
Yeah.
questions? Can we get deeper than just, "How you doing? How was your day?" Can we get deeper
Yeah.
than that?
Exactly.
So a way that I like to, and I catch
Mm-hmm.
myself. Sometimes I want to say, because we just want to know how was your day, right? So I want to say, hey, how was your day? But then I catch myself, and then I'll double right back with I don't even give them time to answer. I'll say, what was special about your day
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
Because then that causes us to think a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just say
Mm-hmm.
good to that. I can't respond good. I've got to think about what was special about my
Yeah.
day. And so I find even my little 6-year-old, I find him kind of thinking, and he'll come up with something special because he knows I'm going to
Right.
ask, and so he'll come up with something special, and I say, well, that truly is special. Tell me more about that. What happened, and so then I'm creating
Mm-hmm.
dialogue. So now I'm talking about quantity.
Yes.
It's not just about that I ask him about his day. Now I'm really getting into some details about his day, and I'm hearing him talk, and he's describing it
Right.
in a way that I don't think that we typically demand from our
Right.
kids.
Right. And the word connection keeps coming up. And we've had this conversation too in regards to connection, but also technology. And
Right.
we've noticed some patterns, even when we talk about our teens and going into adulthood, and what they're challenged by. Um, can you speak to some of the things that you're noticing when it comes to electronics and our young people's ability to connect, What are you seeing?
It's taking our young babies further and further away from who they truly are. With the onset of so many different personalities, so many different
Mm-hmm.
characters, um, so many different influencers. I think it's just taking it's building like almost like a
Mm-hmm.
disconnection or a, I don't want to use clinical terms, but like almost like this
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like we're kind of going away from what the family is supposed to do. The family is supposed to build that
Yeah.
foundation for you to grow and to thrive. The family is almost like the soil that is nutritious for that plant to grow and thrive and be its best look, be its best self, feel its
Yeah.
best. That's not happening with so much technology oversaturating. It is almost like it's going against what we're trying to do as the
Mm-hmm.
family. We're trying to instill values. We're trying to, you know, establish routines, and we're investing in self confidence and self esteem and self worth. But then when they go and they're exposed to all that is,
Mm-hmm.
technology in this digital era, and not to say that it should be taken away, but let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. Let's truly talk about how that's different than what we're doing in our household. Let's truly talk about what that's doing for you mentally. Is that taking you away from what I've taught, from what from what your parents have really raised you to
Yeah.
believe? And then it also helps too to open a dialogue about truly, well, who is this young person who's growing and who's developing and who's learning and taking on a mind of their own? What parts of that are you really interested in? What parts of that are speaking to your spirit? And let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
that. Because not only it's not all bad. I don't want to paint the picture that it's
Right.
all
Right.
bad, because it is exposing them to something. And I apologize for my dog in the background, but it's exposing them to something that's truly, um, almost like it's shaping
Mm-hmm.
them. But let's monitor it. Let's keep an eye on it, and let's continue to talk about it, because again, the connection that we have to the family values, family ties, and the roots that are in within our family structure, how are they vastly different than what you're learning and exposing yourself to on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the importance of family that you bring up, right? And what family is something that has been and will, I'll go spiritual for a minute. It is spirit well. It
Okay.
is something that is being attacked, right? It's trying to disrupt how families, what families, uh, the purpose of families, the ability to build one another up within the family, like that has been something that's being kind of systematically torn down, right? And while technology, like we say, there's some good to it. There's absolutely some good to it, but it has taken the place in some ways of what family should be doing, is what I hear you saying as well, right? We're seeing young
Right.
people with friends. What else? Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
Right. I definitely want to talk about that for a second too, because again, I'm kind of talking to these young individuals, and I'm asking the questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested. I'm kind of just like, so tell me more
Mm-hmm.
about that. And so when they're sharing things, they'll say, well, my friends, that this is what they. Very rarely am I hearing someone say, I'm doing this because my parents, I saw this in, I very rarely hear that. So the
Mm-hmm.
influences are there. They've always been there. But I
Yeah.
think more than ever, the influences are kind of almost like becoming a little bit more intense because the
Mm-hmm.
pressures are on and they're seeing it. So,
Yeah.
back when we didn't have all of this connection through technology,
Mm-hmm.
they were seeing their family. They were
Yeah.
seeing the different personalities and the different nuances within their family, right? Family and
Mm-hmm.
close family friends, right? And
Mm-hmm.
okay, I know Uncle so and so, and I know Aunt so
Mm-hmm.
and so. Now it's like I'm seeing individuals that I don't even have a clue of. I don't even know what they, but this is what they're doing, and this is what's
Right.
influencing me. So I think that I want to go back to Miss Donna. She says the
Mhm.
ownership should be on us. Yes, we are the family. And
Mhm.
that goes into the community. I mean, family within your home, but family within the organization. I mean, church organization,
Mhm.
family within your community, and some of the community organizations that we are align ourselves with, because this truly helps us feel whole, truly helps us feel complete. It truly helps us reach out and have a tangible thing we can touch, and we can ask questions. Well, why do you do things that way? Well, what tell me more about what we learned in Bible study, or whatever it was, right? We have a tangible source to gain information from, right? So the people who are around are the ones who are controlling the narrative of how we're supposed to conduct ourselves in public, or
Yeah.
how to conduct it, how to sit in for an interview, so
Yeah.
like these things are being shaped and influenced by the people who are the caregivers, the true caregivers, because
Yeah.
I guarantee you these influences online, they're not the caregivers, and they can't ever take your place.
Mm-mm. They can't. They can't. And it's the fact that it's getting the ear back, right? If kids are going to young people are going to school and saying, or coming to sessions and saying, well, my friends, how do we get the ear back, right, of young
Mhm,
people where
mhm.
they are connecting with what their parents are saying, with those the adults in their life who are speaking life into them, right, or trying
Right.
to speak life into them. How do we get them to that space, or what do you think, to help them lean into what we're saying rather than put so much stock in what their peers are saying? Although we know it's, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so this is where we have to get a little creative in our
Mm-hmm.
approach. Um, and I one of the things that I will always admit to, I am a mom, I am a wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know that there is not a lot of time in a day, and I get exhausted and weary? Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I take the time to invest in what I care about.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes that might kind of hit a little nerve, because
All right.
people like you said, people are doing the absolute best that they can, and it's like, okay, now you want me to do more. Mm, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's what you make it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
what you feel like you have time for. If you feel like you absolutely have time, a little bit more time, can you do more? Can you dedicate a little bit more? Then, by all means, I would suggest you might want to put a little bit more effort into that, if that is a problem. Now, if you're,
Mm-hmm.
if you're experiencing life is great, I'm connected to my kids, I'm well in tune, I know
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Oh, okay, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the
Right.
ones who are having a problem with really trying to figure out how to decrease that gap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when we're talking about trying to decrease that gap, I will say that it's not only on the parents. It there might be some ownership on the children's part too. But as the parents, I kind of want to, engage that if there's more time, or if there's more that you can do, I would suggest you look into that, you invest in that, because if that is what you really want, if that's the outcome that you really want, then you've got to kind of make some fine adjustments, you
Yeah.
know. Just like when
Yeah.
you go buy a car, you don't expect for that car to run for years on end without any tune up or without any maintenance, right? So we would
Right.
go and and sometimes we're a little picky about where we gonna go to get that maintenance. Like,
That's
I ain't
right.
going over there. I'm gonna go over here. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that, if we'd be that invested in an automobile, then I would think that we would probably be a little bit more invested when it comes to, our young people, our youth, the future, the people who are going to
Yeah.
be leading us in the coming years. So I think that we probably want to invest in that more.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. And I see that it's not just investment. It's almost this removing the distractions too, right, in order to invest, because as you're saying, what I value, I put um, I put time and effort into, right? I invest into that, what I value. And I value my children, right?
Yes.
Parents are saying we value our children. It, but there's this wrestling, of, especially in a society where things are challenging right now for many families,
Right.
right? And so the families that are now in survival mode, parents that are in survival mode, they're like,
Mhm.
okay, um, I saw a, what did I see this morning? I saw it was a list of, someone was seeking advice, right? They had this single mother. She was seeking advice for making ends meet. She put all her responsibilities and financial responsibilities, and just looking at that, right? Just a month, she's in a deficit with two children, right? And so
Mhm.
her priority, it might be a struggle to prioritize the time with these two children
Yes.
when, okay, we're consistently at least $300 in the hole. Something is
Right.
not going to get done or covered,
Right.
right? And it's just her. And so I recognize that. I recognize that for some individuals, there is there are barriers, right? There are barriers to this investment, or I don't even want to say perceived barriers, right? Because that's a genuine barrier. I'm fearful.
Real. Oh, it's
Yes.
real.
My four walls, right, are at risk.
And it's
And
almost
so
the first.
it's exactly. And so I'm thinking, okay, I need to pour into my children, but I also need to make sure the lights are on, the water's on, there's
Mm.
food, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so when you talk about being creative, I think those families are ones that have to be extremely creative about how they're able to speak life and pour into their children and invest in them
Yes.
when they're crying themselves to sleep at night,
Yeah.
right? And so for those that are watching, I don't want, as you're saying, um, there are different experiences that everyone
Mhm.
is going through, and so the creativity may look a little different based on your family dynamics.
Absolutely. And for that, I recognize, and like I said, I see all of, you name it,
Mm-hmm.
from the ones who make very, very little and almost like pinching pennies to the
Yeah.
ones who are, and so I encourage those who are finding that they need more. I remember I talked about that individual, family within your
Mm-hmm.
household, but then, there's a larger family at play, right?
Yeah.
So who are you connected to?
Yeah.
Who are the folks that are in your life who truly make up that village? A little bit of background, I was in the military, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I everywhere I went, the military is like they're not going to wait for us to hold on one second, let me go over here and get some milk. They don't
Mm-hmm.
when
Yeah.
it's time to go, it's time to go. So being proactive was one thing that I learned very early on in my military career with these children that I have to still try to make sure, because I'm responsible. Ultimately, I'm responsible,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to earn a living and trying to create a life for them. But at the same time, I'm trying to be connected and all of these things that people are telling me that I should be doing with my kids. How do I juggle all of this?
Yeah.
So being proactive was one thing. I was in a position where I had to think 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 months ahead of today because I couldn't afford to just think about tomorrow. And so what
Mm-hmm.
does that look like in 3 months? What is this going to look like in 3 months? Okay, well, let me go ahead and start putting some things in place. Let me go ahead and start putting some things on reserve now. Okay, that was one thing. So being proactive was one. Two, it was all about the village.
Yes.
And there are some people who are going to see this live and they're going to attest, yep, I was a part of that village. I remember,
Mm-hmm.
so because I
Mm-hmm.
always, no matter where I went, and the military took me in places that I was with people that did not always look like me.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't always believe what I believed, right? So, but I still had to create community in said area, and whether that was well, okay, I serve with this person, and this person has a spouse who doesn't work every day. Okay, let me try to get to know that person. I was thinking light
Yeah.
years ahead because I knew that if I formed a relationship, now here we go, back to connection. Here we go.
Uh-huh.
So it's
Uh-huh.
not just about connection to your children. It's about connecting to the people in the community. Because I mean, despite what the news and the media is saying, right?
Right.
There's still
Right.
some really good people in this world.
Absolutely.
And I mean, when I tell you there are some people with hearts of gold, and you just like, oh gosh, Lord, thank you for sending
Hmm.
this person my way.
Hmm.
There are just some really good people in the world. So of course, the spirit of discernment, I'm using that
Yeah.
every step of the way.
Absolutely.
But I'm connecting to people who can truly be a part of my village. And it's not just because I need help today. No, I'm preparing for what I need help 3 months
Yes.
from now, because I know I'm gonna need somebody good in my
Yes.
corner. And so I'm connecting even in those
Hmm.
ways. And so sometimes the connection is not just linear. Sometimes it's got to be on a larger scale than just within my household.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I use that. I use that as a way to truly connect to the community, because the community, there's some gems in our
Hmm.
communities,
Hmm.
and wherever you are and wherever you find yourself, wherever your struggles are,
Absolutely.
just don't stop striving to connect in ways. And I'm not saying, stretch yourself thinner than what you need to. I'm saying you got to just be a little bit more proactive relationships and maintain those relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an incredible point because community, as much as, like you said, as much as what we're seeing on the news, community is where we thrive, right? It's where we're able to push past particular issues and um, things that are going on in society. Where we tap into our community, we're able to move through it, right? um, and so I think about the fact that there's so many people with so many that have resource, right? There are people that have resource or even skill. And while y'all are watching this live and you're hearing kind of this discussion about young people and their needs and mental health, um, even think about, like, what do I possess that I can pour into young folks? What is it that I can that I know how to do? Right? We talk about the single mother who doesn't have the resource. Sometimes we don't have the physical resource to give, but we know what it meant to, like, okay, if you take from this grocery bill, you take some of that down, you go to the food bank, you let the food, get food from the food bank and don't
Right.
try to spend, we might know how
Right.
because we're in the midst of doing it, or we have done it. We may not
On
be
it.
able to pay the grocery bill because we're still trying to climb our way out of a particular
Hmm.
situation. But
Hmm.
what we do have, what we have experienced now, how do I then share for this family in order for them to come up, right? I think gone, what needs to be gone are the days of that crabs in the barrel mentality, right?
Right.
That's got to come to an end,
Right.
because our young people are watching, right? They're watching and they're seeing how we're handling stressors, how we're working through things, and
Oh,
so I wanted to, yeah.
yes. It's like almost like we are in sync, because
Mhm.
the next point I had that I wanted to mention is that values. And I am, I'm
Yes.
huge on that. That is, if you sit with me for more than 2 sessions, you're going to hear that word come up, and so, because I like to go back to that. Miss Donna talked about those, back to the basics. So what are the
Mhm.
values that we're really instilling in our children? My question to you, just to think about, in the public, is what are you teaching at home that goes with your children everywhere they go?
Mm.
Are you a model of that value? Okay.
I'm gonna
So,
put it in the
like
chat.
you just said, there's
Right.
something that's really pivotal here. You know how sometimes you'll hear people say, "I don't need nobody. I'm doing this all on my own. No, I'm good. I'm an independent person. I don't need nobody. I don't
Mm.
need no help. It's just, I got it. I got it. Okay, right." So when your children hear that, now they develop this almost like this vacuum mentality where everything is happening in the vacuum. Everything is happening, just kind of right here, me, myself, and I got this. I got to be doing it myself. And I don't need nobody's help.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. So what happens when you truly do get into a bind and you do need help, or you do find yourself kind of struggling and you don't know what to do? What's going to happen then? And maybe it won't happen in the near future, but what happens 10 years from now when you're really struggling and you need some help? Are you going to have that same mentality then? Because you yourself and you're not able to pull yourself out of that hole. Whereas then if you would have created a relationship and created those connections and had that village where you can say, you know what, I know I might not know the person, but I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And I'm going to be able to get some help. I'm going to be able to get some relief. And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people who are able to be a part of the village, who are able to help us when we need it. And that's the truth. Mr. Brooks, I'm gonna give him a cameo. He said the Lord will place these people in your village. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. So yeah, it becomes that when you
Yeah.
truly are investing in that connection. So those values, what are you teaching your children? And not just teaching them in talk. What are you teaching them in demonstration, in practice?
Yeah.
What are they seeing from you?
And so what you're saying is that they're not just hearing it, but they're watching it.
100%.
They're not just hearing the values, right? They're not gleaning it just from what you're saying. It is not just the sit down conversation, but it's how you are living out your life.
Absolutely. Because watch this. There have been some children in my office, young people, not even like 6 years old, but like, 12, 13, where you think that they're just kind of like, oh, they just want to hang out with their friends. Oh, they just want to be online. They just want to be in their room. What are they watching? Are they watching you be in your room, closed off to yourself because, you truly are in a space? And so that's what they've been seeing for this long. And so that's in their mind, how they're conceptualizing, this is how we solve problems.
Yeah.
This is how we get through. This is how we get through hardship. Is that what they're seeing? And if that's what they're seeing, then again, I go back to that question. What are you teaching at home that goes with them everywhere they go, even when they leave your home?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's pivot just a little bit because I know like I said, we can talk all day.
Right.
If you were talking directly, and you do, talking directly to young people, what are some things that you would want them to hear as a therapist? You can add as a parent too, but as a therapist, because you're both. What do they need to hear with what they're encountering in 2025? What would you share with them?
I think in this season of our 20 of our dear Lord 2025. Okay.
Amen.
Our kids need to hear that they matter. Our kids need to hear that they matter. They are truly a gift. And sometimes I think that we don't necessarily push that message to them. Our kids need to know that they are a gift. And how do you treat a gift? How do you treat a gift? How do you nurture? How do you protect a gift? Yes, they jump on that last nerve. Yes, absolutely. They tap dance on it, right? And sometimes for hours on end, they tap on it. But how do you truly let them know that they are a gift? And I would say from myself to when I'm sitting in front of a young person and they're sitting in my office and they are in their own way trying to convey a message to me, I'm letting them know that I thank you.
Yeah.
I thank you for your time. And I thank you for being a part of this process, because yes, you could have just came in here and sat because your mom told you to, or because the courts told you to. You could have done that, but you've opened yourself up to be able to be a part of this healing process, and sometimes it takes a little while to do that, but I earned that trust because I believe that they are a gift. And, again, everybody has their own thoughts and beliefs, right?
Yeah.
But I truly believe that these kids are a gift from God, and we have to treat them that way. And, how would you treat a gift from God? Yeah, I mean, you praying for the $1 million and you're praying for the big house and you're praying for the nice car. but you got the gift right here.
Got it right here.
It's right
Mhm.
here. And
Yeah.
sometimes 3 or 4 of them, you know what I mean? So you got the gift right
Yes.
here.
Yes, exactly, exactly. There's and what you're pointing out is, um, and I had the opportunity to share a little bit this past Sunday while my pastors were out, really about the fact that we've lost track of what is important, right? And we place some different things on our heart, on the throne of our heart, right? And what, you know, this is a Christian led organization. So, um, what I would say is that we've made idols out of the things that we want, and we've lost connection, and we no longer prioritize the things of God. And part of that is being drawn into what feels good, what we want, our appetite is being drawn into all the external, right? And like you said, um, having children, those of us that don't, I don't have children, those of us that don't, but are able to be in the midst of children and speaking to children, or whether our nieces or nephews, all those things, you know, we still have to prioritize their overall well-being, right? And we have placed things, material things, all of that above the relationship and the connection and the building up of young people. And
Absolutely.
again, as you said before, in case anyone missed it, if this doesn't apply to you, we're not talking to you. But if
Right.
you recognize that some things need to shift, then that's important because, and I think I shared with you too. One of the things my niece shared with me is that young people want to feel special. Like
Mm,
they don't want to be regular. They don't want to just be
right.
I keep wanting to use the word basic because I feel like that's what she's saying.
Right.
They won't want to be basic, but how do we, um, yes, ma'am, and grandparents,
And
how do
grandparents.
we be helping them to recognize, as you said, you're the gift. You're
Yeah.
already, um,
Mhm.
you're already blessed to be here and have breath in your body, and God says
Absolutely.
you are good, right? He said
Mhm.
everything after everything he made, he said it is good, right? And so
Good.
somewhere along the path, we've lost they've lost the understanding of their value. And
Yeah.
Miss Donna says, I'm so passionate about this. My heart is broken to see our younger generation so lost to the point when they don't even know the danger of the choices that they're making. Right. And many of them are making choices because they want to feel special. They're making choices because they don't feel that connection or that sense of value, right? They don't feel,
Mhm.
some of them don't feel loved.
Right.
Some of them don't feel seen. And so there's a, we've misunderstood the assignment.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely. And I want to go back to something that you just said. Um, for individuals who also do not have children, I I think that still investing in a young person, that creates more of a village for that for that youth, so it's not about the biological, aspect, more or less. It's just identifying that a young person, and if I go in the grocery store and I see young people working, oh,
mm-hmm,
I'm always really just, I'm engaging with them
yeah,
because I'm excited. I'm just like, okay, you guys are out and they're young. I mean, like they're still school age. And I'm just like, wow, and so what that tells me is that there are people who are, somebody showed them something.
mm-hmm,
So I want to be a part of that village. Even if I don't ever see them again, I still want to be a part of that support that's saying, you know, keep going, don't
yeah,
stop. My daughter, she's in college now, and I take every opportunity. She hates it, but I
mm-hmm,
still do it. Whenever her friends, she introduced me to her friends, I always say, well, y'all don't stop, y'all keep going, keep doing well. And I'm always taking an interest. What are you studying? What you doing? Okay, how you
mm-hmm,
doing? Do you like, and I'm always trying to have, mom, she's like, Mom, can we go? And I'm like, no, 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 wait a second, because I want that person to know when they
yeah,
leave my presence, I want them to feel, there's something elevating in them. I want them to feel like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, so maybe I can go ahead and maybe I can write that paper.
Yeah.
Maybe I can, go another semester or whatever it is. Just encouragement, that they are special. You are seen, you are
Yeah.
heard, and because you're doing something positive, we quick to put them on the news whenever they're doing something negative, but in real time, I want to tell you that I'm proud of you for doing something positive,
Hmm.
you know.
Absolutely.
So just making it, like you said, making them feel special because they are special. It's not
They
it's not
are.
about just a facade of being special. No,
Yes.
they are special, and I take every opportunity that I can, of course, without embarrassing my own children, but I try to take
Hmm.
every opportunity I can to pour into the kids and let them know what you're doing is making a difference. Even if you are pushing the cart from the parking lot back into the store, it's still
Yes.
making a difference. So I thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Miss Karen says acknowledgement. Yes.
I want to
Acknowledging. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yes. Absolutely.
I want to say something else before. I know we're getting
Hmm.
close to time. I want to speak about discipline for just a couple
Hmm.
seconds because
Absolutely.
I know sometimes that can also be a struggle as well. And this goes for parents, grandparents, just if in that family unit, right? Discipline. Something that stuck out to me. And I even had a conversation with my daughter about this, and I thought this was important just to kind of hear the young people's voice, right, in this
Hmm.
discipline. Three things: correct it, consequence, recenter.
Mm. Okay.
Correct the behavior, whatever the behavior is. If you're the grandparent, if you're the caregiver, if you're a godparent, if you're an aunt, uncle, whoever, correct the behavior, give the consequence, because we have to know that there's a consequence for every wrong, every behavior, good or bad, right? It has a consequence. But if there's something that needs to be corrected, go ahead and give that consequence. If it's, taking the phone for a couple of days, or if it's no, you can't go to that party, you got to stay home with me, there's a consequence. But then recenter. How often do we let it linger?
Mm.
And if we don't go back to what it was, we don't recenter. We
Hmm.
don't go into, okay, now let's talk about it for a minute because we got to get
Yeah.
back right. We got to get back
Yeah.
to where we were, you know. Again, I'm a parent, guilty as charged, right?
Mm.
Um, but when my daughter told me that the recentering was a really big part of that discipline, it was like the light bulb went on, because
Mm.
far too often we don't go back to what it was because we're still carrying whatever they did.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes, especially when certain things are violated, but the recentering part, you almost like you how do relationships move forward? How do relationships progress? We
Mm.
can't keep holding it over their head, right?
Yeah.
We've got to trust that they make mistakes just like we do.
Absolutely. I love that. Correct consequences,
And then
recenter.
recenter.
Yeah.
I said
I agree that recenter. Go ahead.
I said, "Tell me that you're a therapist child without telling me you're a therapist child."
Okay. She had a word.
Right? That'll work. So,
Mama
yeah,
need us
it's
to
and
recenter. Yeah.
goes back to what we talked about in
Hmm.
terms of what are you teaching them at home that goes with them everywhere they go.
Absolutely. And I think you could probably add more to that, right?
Mhm.
Because even when you talk about recentering, you're not only just restoring the relationship, right? You're recentering them, that they don't
Absolutely.
that they don't have to, not that just
Walk
you're going to
around
put it
in
over
it.
their head, right? They don't have to
Right,
stay in it.
right,
They don't have
right,
to stay in their mistake. And is
right.
that not what the Father does, right?
Come on, come on.
That I don't have to stay in that space of
I don't
my
have to I
mistake.
don't have to wear it.
Yeah. And so
Yes,
if he's doing it for us, and we've got to be able to be that example, right, of that same
yes,
restorative relationship with the
absolutely.
young people in our life. And sometimes I've seen it. I mean, I used to do therapy for young people too. I've
Mhm.
moved to just adults now, but
Right.
um, there's this kind of um, punitive process with some people. Modeling forgiveness, absolutely.
Yes. Yes, Miss
There,
Karen.
it becomes so punitive of, well, you know, last
Right.
month you did such and
Right.
such. I'm like, we're still on last month,
We still going back. Right.
you know, and it's, we can't even say, well, and oftentimes I think the modeling part is important too, because you have, as adults, we've committed sin, we've messed up,
Mhm.
we've said things to our young people, our children, our nieces, our nephews, our the young people in our life that was not edifying, was not good for them,
Right.
and we might have said
Right.
it out of emotion, and
Right.
so we're wanting them to forgive us,
Right.
right, and for them to not to assume that we're bad people or that we don't love them, right? Why would you think that? Well, there have been some
Mhm.
seeds planted along the way.
I could. I could.
Yeah. And we
Right.
didn't have that, we didn't have that restorative conversation that
Mhm.
let me know that we're okay, that
We're okay.
I'm not my mistake.
Right. 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 That I can come back from it.
I, I I can come back, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think part of that too is the work that adults need to be doing for themselves in order to,
Now let's talk about that for just one
yeah,
second.
thank
Look,
you.
so I will say that a lot of times children that I see are being ushered into my office by individuals who they themselves are not actively seeking the help of
Mm,
self-healing.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that
Very
is
quick
something that I
understood.
would strongly advocate that if again chew the meat, spit out the bones, right? If this applies to you, just take it. But if it doesn't, but if you have children who are struggling and they are in need of mental health support services, right? A part of their healing, a part of their recovery, they're going to need you. If you're the caregiver, they're going to need you. They're going to need you to also be a part, an ally in that healing. And so I would encourage if they are in treatment, if they are seeking services, if they're in help, getting help, it doesn't take away from the process if you also are getting help.
Yes. It actually increases the likelihood for them to be successful when
Mhm.
you are in your own treatment, because you're able to hear differently as you start to heal.
Absolutely.
um and I kind of paraphrased what you said, but
Mhm.
I'm not a fast typer. Miss Karen says, what can the parent do? Where is the help for self-healing for parents?
Okay. So at times I would suggest you also enroll in or seek individual outpatient services, and you don't have, this does not have to be something that you do every week. You don't have to have a sitting session every week. What I would suggest is find out what your needs are as the parent, and then I would say get into some healing. If it's group, if it's an online group that meets, if it's
Mm-hmm.
someone, but seek professional help, seek professional support on that, and then be willing to sit and talk to your child as they are going through their therapy. So I would say it's a 2-for-1. Support your child, but also seek help as well, because it does not hurt. It really enhances the process, because there
Yeah.
might be some things that you're not aware of that your child might be going through that are really coming from, they stem from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Silva says sometimes a child's healing is their parents' healing as well. Absolutely. No,
Mm-hmm.
100%. I feel like that's something that we in our community we don't address enough, is that there's almost a mirrored effect when it comes to mental health.
Yes. Yes. Mirrored effect, genetic effect. We have to put all the cards on the table, right? And that
Mhm.
this does not happen in a vacuum. These children do not wake up one day with a mental illness, right? There are
Mhm.
things that have led to that. There are some genetic factors to take into consideration, and it doesn't have to be mom and dad, because there's some genetic things that go back to grandparents that we've seen.
Right.
There's been, and sometimes we don't know our history, and there's a schizophrenia diagnosis or a bipolar diagnosis that has run through the family, right? And no one, it's just kind of like, that person got a little, they a little off. What is
Right.
that mean though?
What is that? Right. What
Right.
is that? Mhm.
Because there's some that can then contribute to other generations. Sometimes there's these unresolved issues with abuse,
Right.
the undercover sexual violence that happens within families, or even incest. Those things influence. You don't. Some children
You
don't even
don't
have to know
realize
what
it.
happened,
Yeah.
but you
Mhm.
don't realize the influence that is occurring within the
Mhm.
family line. And so, yes, being able to it, participate in your own individual therapy, but also group therapy. Both, she says, who do you both recommend? So what we'll do is make sure that I was working on that for this weekend, but I'll post some local. I can do local. We're in Virginia, so if anybody's outside of Virginia, I can do some local. We're 757, some local therapists, but also some platforms to look for a therapist. Because sometimes you not sometimes you got to do the research for who works for you. So we could suggest someone, but they may not be a good fit for you.
Right.
And that doesn't mean they're not a good therapist. They're not a good fit for you.
Right.
Right. So we'll make sure we put some recommendations, and I think I should
And
be able to.
I have some that I can
Yes.
definitely put to that list as well. Yeah.
Yes. We'll put it together and then make sure that it is on online. But it's important, right? And there was something you said that I wanted to address. But the the other thing that I think parents can do is be open to the conversations about mental health, be open to the conversations or what some parents may identify as complaints,
Yes.
right? Their concerns. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to hear your children because you feel hurt or offended by their
Right.
experience with you,
Mhm.
right? And something that I always go to, and we'll wrap up soon. I know we're over the 11 o'clock hour. Um, Something that I always go to is the fact that you may intend for something to be transferred or said with no malice or no harm,
Right.
but your intent and your impact are two totally different things.
Right.
And so I may say something that I just intend for them to really get it and understand the gravity of this situation, but the impact landed a little differently, and
Yeah.
and a young person internalized that. So the ability to listen without judgment, without feeling the need to defend or tear down immediately, right? To at all, but hear it all out, right? And
Yes.
then being able to say, okay, I didn't know that's how you received that. I didn't know that's what you thought.
Yes. Yes.
This
Yeah.
this but can I share with you what I actually meant,
Right.
right? And I think because of the dynamic, the parent-child relationship, oftentimes, and I'm going to say specifically within our community because I didn't grow up in another one, right?
Right.
But in our community, there is the idea of um, not being challenged by young people.
Mhm.
And so, but if you teach them how to have conversations, right, how to share what's going on with them, it's not necessarily that you're being challenged. You're teaching them to advocate for themselves. You're teaching them to share that something is wrong,
Yes.
right? Something's not feeling right within me.
Mhm.
And oftentimes we have children that are dying by suicide and they're like, I didn't know. I didn't know.
Right.
L- Create the space so that you'll know.
Yeah.
I think it was Miss Donna, a few up in the chat, said something about creating safe space.
Mhm.
That's the only way that a young person, because it works for us too,
Right.
that they're going to bring the things that burden them to the safe space. They're not going to
Right.
bring it to a hostile space. They're not going to bring
Mhm.
it to the space where they feel rejected. So
Mhm.
there's something in creating that space for them to be heard, and that they feel that you're not going to punish them for what they feel.
Do you care?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a few minutes. Any final thoughts, any final things you want to share with young people or adults or whoever you want to share it with?
No, I will I will kind of end off with that, love, love,
Hmm.
love.
Yes.
Our kids need to know that they are loved and protected. How do you
Yes.
create space? Love and protection, so that they
Hmm.
don't feel like they have to go out there looking for it. They can find it truly here. It's here,
Absolutely.
you know. So that's that's all
Absolutely.
I have. I wanted to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be a part
Oh
of
yeah.
this. This is amazing. So
Yes.
thank you, and thank you for the people who joined in, the ones who are participating on the chat, but then also the ones who are just absorbing and taking away from this experience. I want to say thank you, because this is investment as well. So thank
Hmm.
you for investing the time with us to be able to hear what we had to say. So that I hope that your journey is better, just better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you for saying yes. I appreciate your yes. I think it is important. One of the things that I value are meaningful conversations.
Mhm.
I don't do small talk well, but I do a meaningful conversation about things that are important and are on my heart,
Important. Mhm.
and I feel that are on the heart of God as well, because I do believe um, He's restoring some things. As much as we see the chaos, He's calling His people to a place of restoration and to be in alignment with who He's called us to be, right?
Mhm.
And part of that is dealing with all the parts of ourselves, our mind, our spirit, our soul. We've got to deal physically. We've got to deal with all of these things with Him, with the leading of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And so I appreciate your yes and the opportunity to have this conversation with you, because it is very meaningful and very, very necessary. I
Yeah.
celebrate your work with young people, and I've had the blessing to be able to walk alongside her in this journey for 2 years. I don't know,
Yeah.
about 2 years, right? And so I love how God is using you in the lives of young people, and so
Mhm.
it truly is a blessing. And for those of you, again, as she said, we thank you for joining in on the live. This will not be the last one. And my mind says, um, I truly want to be able to have her back to have some more conversations. So if she gives me another yes, we'll do that again. Um, but yes, you can share this live. You can continue to comment. We'll make sure that we put up a resource list for therapists, and in that um, you have what you need. If you can DM us, DM me at Seeds of Love LLC VA, and if they want to reach out to you, let's say they have a young person, please share the age range that you actually provide care for or services for, and
Absolutely.
yeah, where they can connect with you.
Absolutely. If you wouldn't mind putting the our inner circle in the chat, that's how you can reach us in terms of seeking services. Go online, and then you can fill out a referral form, and then our staff will get back to you and in scheduling appointments. Um, but I am, like I said, at Inner Circle. I see outpatient clients. So that means that we're not necessarily doing court mandated or anything like that right now, but we see outpatient clients for individual and family counseling. I go from ages 6. My oldest client is 63, somewhere around that ballpark. So, I'm definitely seeing any and everybody, you name it, come on with us, and let's do this together. So definitely we do the screening process through our staff, and then they will then refer you to my calendar. We make the first initial appointment, and that is in person. And then we have done where we have the online virtual telehealth option. I personally prefer us to meet in person only because that connection again,
Yes.
connection is really, really big for me. And so I prefer we meet in person. But if we have to do telehealth services, I'm open to that too. My job, especially with younger people typically do better in person. But my job is to promote healing and wellness within the community. And so that's how you reach me.
Absolutely. I have placed the website in the chat. And again, this is Miss Yvonne Brooks, supervisee in social work. She is minutes away from having her license. And so that's another thing to notice, there are good therapists that are in process, right? You can still provide counseling and therapy under supervision until you get your state license. So there are steps to this, and she's doing all the steps and she's doing them well. And so if you would like to connect with her, go to the website and again, fill out the forms that she stated. You are currently taking new clients right now.
Absolutely. We're wide open.
Okay. So she's taking new clients and so you can reach out. And there's another therapist. Is there another right now? There's, well,
Yeah, there are several of
yeah.
us. Yeah, there are several of us there.
Okay, that are all taken.
Yep.
So,
Sharino.
it's definitely an agency where you can connect. And I used to be there as well. I just do supervision right now with the agency. So thank you all again for being a part. Thank you to your supporters who are also on as well. And this will not be the last live. We'll have another one at the end of this month talking about our faith and how we think, how it impacts our faith. So look for more, follow the page, and we'll be back soon. Take care, y'all. Enjoy your Saturday. God bless.